I am so excited about today. I listen to so many astrologers because we all learn from each other, but very rarely is there an astrologer that absolutely blows my mind. Today's guest is someone I learned so much from. She has such a genuine insight about the mythology of your life and the stars and how they correlate in such a beautiful and inspiring way. And that's why I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, Marcia Wade. Hello.
Hello, Carrie, and thank you so much
I'm
for inviting
clapping.
me here.
I can't help. I can't help but clap. I'm such a fan of yours.
It's mutual. I feel like we are from the same stars.
We are star sisters, aren't we?
Totally.
We
We
definitely
totally
are.
are.
I very seldom get readings, and I very seldom, as I said, am in awe of someone. I practice my own version of astrology, as we all do, but I tend to lean toward evolutionary astrology, very soul oriented, and I'm with the planets. I don't know about the asteroids and the black moon Lilith and a lot of things that a lot of astrologers are covering now, which is really exciting. But you go into it in so much depth. I learn so much about the universe from you, not just the planets that we all hear about, but the mythology behind everything. And you work a lot with the asteroids, is that correct?
Yes, I do. And really, the mythology is the reason why, because, I really, first time I read, it was a poet, Muriel Rukeyser, who said this. The universe isn't made of atoms. It's made of stories.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I think atoms, maybe they fall out of the stories, but that really resonated with me even before I'd ever discovered astrology. And I feel like that's what our birth charts do. They're telling a story, or we are living our story. All these other stories are, wanting to be part of our story. So with just the planets, the stories are limited in where they could go.
Hmm. Hmm.
The asteroids really fill out the story.
Hmm.
uh, And you can tell different stories, and they really help to identify how your story is not like anyone else's story or mine either.
Yeah.
We're all one of a kind.
Well, I had the joy of having several readings with you, and when I first had my reading with you, yeah, I was just really I had to sit with it for a while. And even though I'd been studying astrology for a couple of decades at that point at least, and you also, I don't know why I didn't know this before, you were the only one who told me that I was born right before total solar eclipse. And that changed my life. Honestly,
Yeah, it's life changing.
it's life changing.
It changed your life when you came in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really important because, well, we're all born for a reason, right? And we all are living through a time that is very mythological. Like, this is an epic time we're
Very.
living in. And I love that you were
So
born.
true.
And I love that you were born in the South because they're storytellers down there, typically, right? They
Oh,
like to
definitely. I got it from my grandmothers.
weave a yarn, right? Or is that the right word? Is
Yeah,
that the right
yeah,
expression?
that's it.
Yeah. And I want to talk about your approach to astrology and how you got into it. So, can you share with us?
Yeah. So I am Aquarius rising,
that-
and I have four planets in the eighth house.
Mm.
So I've never met an Aquarian who doesn't like get astrology. Even the ones who are like, I don't want to know all the details, but they get it. They totally get it. And the same with the eighth house people and the Scorpios. So how I got to be 29 years old,
Saturn
just
return.
weeks before my Saturn return, it was the first I'd ever heard about astrology.
Interesting.
I mean, that was just like, how did that happen? I was in graduate school, and my graduate school advisor came bursting into my office one Monday morning. It was a little tiny cubby hole. I was a research associate in women's studies. So, this interest in the feminine and the goddess goes way back. Um, and she said, Marcia, you've got to do what I did this weekend. This was in Alabama, little provincial university town.
Wow.
And so the next weekend, I drove to Atlanta to the Daily Planets Astrology Center. And Jeff Jawer, who for a long time worked with Rick Levine until he died, in fact, it was a few years ago, he was the first one who read my chart.
He's a legend.
And yeah, well, he turned the magic key. It was just like click, 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 click. I walked out of there. There's a planet, one of the ones I call the edge dwellers, way out at the edge of the solar system, named Orcus. In the ancient world, he was referred to as the other Pluto. And his life transforming power is the power of our vows. And when I read about Orcus, I instantly knew what that meant, because I still remember walking out of the Daily Planets Astrology Center, and it was like a vow. I was like, I'm going to learn everything I can about what just happened in there. I felt like it was telling me who I was in a language that made sense. It was like I felt really seen for the first time, really seen. So that was 1982. No internet, no astrologers in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But a good bookstore. So I ordered, everywhere I ever went. I'd go find the bookstore, see if they had an astrology section. After about a year, I realized I need a teacher. I need somebody to help me put all this together. And this is something else. I can remember it just like it was yesterday. I was standing in the yard looking up at this huge oak tree, and I looked up at the sky, and I was like, I need a teacher. 2 weeks later, someone calls me and says, hey, have you heard about that astrologer who just moved back to Tuscaloosa? He had grown up there. Years later, he told me he'd had a dream that he should go back to Tuscaloosa and start teaching. And so, but the minute I heard it, I had chill bumps. I was like, oh my gosh, that's my teacher. So that fall, this was in the summer, he had a class at the campus Hillel Center. And the whole, people all around this big long table. Well, astrology is very mystical, but it's also very left brain.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Not easy to learn.
It's an order. There's an order in the universe, even when there's
exactly. And you can't just make it up or, and then, you couldn't just click a few buttons. It took me half a day to, calculate a chart. Yeah. But I'm so glad I learned that way, because you really get, what's it all about. Anyway, by the end of the semester, there were like 5 people left.
Yeah.
So we started meeting at my house. But after another semester, there was just me, and I really feel like in those years in the 80s, Tom McKenzie, he looked like Abraham Lincoln with a Southern accent. He just took the top of my head off and poured in everything he knew. And he would say, now, when you have your own practice, and I'd be like, oh, no, no, I could never do this. I just want to know everything about it. And he would smile and he'd say, okay, but just remember when you're doing this for other people, but it took years before I had the confidence and I don't know. And I just felt like did it for about 20 years. It was like a side gig, a side hustle. And then in 2011, I had another weird, like, message. I could see it written out in the clouds. The sun, Uranus, Venus, and the moon. And I'm like, who's skywriting the most important planets in my chart in the sky? And then I'm like, there's no plane. I was driving down the highway. I even took a picture with my phone, thinking, am I losing it? Am I hallucinating? But when I stopped and looked at my phone, you could see there were, you know, in the clouds. I felt like it was a message, do
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
So I
Divine
did.
intervention.
So I did. And here I am. What is that? This is 15 years later.
Wow.
And the great thing about astrology, we're all always learning. You can
Mhm.
never know it all,
Yeah.
It gave me a lot more confidence when I realized that. Doesn't matter how much you know. It's always going to be a drop in the bucket because we're talking about the universe.
Well, I don't consider myself an astrologer a lot of times because I'm an intuitive who happens to know and love astrology really well. It's because I'm like, it's too vast. Like I always it's so endless that I understand where you're like, it took me 20 years because
But
it's a lot.
what I think now, what we're really saying when we say I'm an astrologer or this is an astrologer, I think it's about like an inner resonance
Mhm.
or a bond, a
Yeah.
relationship, a way of being. It's not like, box that we sit in with our own little box of knowledge. It's more a way of being connected to everything in the whole universe.
That's the truth. And that's why we're always learning from each other. I love listening to other astrologers.
Yes.
Said I learn really the most from you about things I don't know. Things I don't know. So, can you talk to us about the mythology of the planets and the universe? You don't need to tell us what the whole mythology is, but but how the
But
mythology is connected to
so
the universe?
I started reading mythology like when I was in second grade
Mhm.
because my mom gave me a book, Greek Myths for Children. And I read it and I was like, this makes perfect sense. I mean, it made so much more sense to me than what I learned in Sunday school, especially growing up in the KKK South. It was
Mhm.
like, what is
Yeah,
this
you don't
really
want
all
to
about?
discuss that. Mhm.
But the mythology that made sense. And I studied mythology in graduate school. So by the time I learned about astrology, the ancients who came up in Sumeria with the very first zodiac, and then in Egypt, and then in Greece, they didn't see these planets as just planets. These were the, divine forces. Those were the gods. And they all have stories and they're all connected. And because I knew those stories, I think it made astrology feel very intimate to me. And it still does. And the exciting thing about now is there's so many, there's so much really brilliant work being done in mythology. All these younger um, mythologists going back and looking in the ancient, going back, well, who was Mars before he was Mars? Who was Venus before she was Venus? Really connecting us to our ancient ancestors, and the way they saw the divine and the way they saw the world. And what I have found is it's not just me. We all resonate with these forces because it's like these gods are in us, these forces of nature and the cosmos. They're in us too. And I mean, I've done deep dives with a lot of them, but if we think about Venus, the closest planet to the Earth, the oldest story written on clay tablets dug up from the desert of what is now Iraq was once Sumeria. A lot of people will say, oh no, Gilgamesh, that's the oldest. But more and more archaeologists are saying, no, no. The story of Inanna, which was the first name for Venus, that's the oldest story. Wow. And that story is so fresh. It speaks right to our times.
Right now.
Because, yes. And, you don't have to explain to people why. You just tell them the story and they get it. They're right there. She knew. She was like us, raised in a culture with great privilege. I mean, we live like royalty compared to most of the people who have ever been alive. All the things that we have at our fingertips. But she was fundamentally disempowered, and she knew it. She lived in a world that the rules weren't made for her. They weren't made with any thought for her. It's like you do this and you don't do that. And she was in a marriage where her husband was carrying on an adulterous affair, not even trying to hide it. And so she knew, like, I don't have any power. And she was, God, a goddess. And so she gets a message. Her mother had been kidnapped and smuggles the message to her. Go to your sister. Well, Anana's sister, and in dreams and myths, the sister is like another part of the self. So Anana's sister was the queen of the underworld. And when Anana said, I'm going to see her, everybody was like, you're doing what?
Yeah, why are you going to the
where?
underworld? Yeah.
Nobody comes back from there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's my sister. It's fine. And you can feel how on the way she's thinking, I'm going to go down there. You can almost see what she's imagining. She's going to go, oh, sister, I've been waiting. Let me give you this token of power. And in a way that did happen, but not how Anana thought. The journey was long. The journey was hard. Then she gets there and she's like stripped of everything that identified her as, hey, I'm a princess. They took her crown. They took her clothes. They took everything. And then she gets down there. Her sister takes one look at her and screams to all these ghouls lurking in the shadows, kill her.
Whoa.
And her head gets smashed into bits. And that is how Anana learns. Lying there in the underworld, that she has a power she never dreamed of. And we all know this power. All of us who are past our Saturn return, I think. It is the power to put herself back together in a new way based on what is true for her, what she really likes, what she really cares about, not what they've all told her her whole life. And when she walks out of the underworld, she's a different goddess. She knows who she is. Now, I think for us, we don't go to, and even Inanna, even Venus doesn't go to, she goes down to the underworld every 18 months. So it's like a process that we go through. Sometimes it's more intense than others, but we all know that process. And I feel like knowing that Venus does that
Mhm.
over and over, it it changes us. It helps us value not only the times when we're shining, but the times when we're down in the depths, feeling shattered. Because Venus tells us this isn't the end.
Mhm.
You're actually at a new beginning. So I find like knowing if we were born when Venus was rising or when she was descending, that's that changes it changes our knowingness and our trust in our own rhythm. It's like there's no one way to have her that's better. It's just knowing this the same way really about everything in the chart.
Yeah, like
It's
where
like
you
a
are in your, yeah.
confirmation.
Like what
This,
what the universe is telling you about your
yeah,
part in your mythic journey.
exactly. And the medicine that you bring to the world that nobody else can bring. If you don't bring it, we don't get it. We won't receive it. All of us.
That's so important to know right now because in this part of the mythic journey in the world, we're in the underworld. We're in that part where Venus gets her head bashed in. I feel like and this is a time of feminine rage actually. And I think it's the feminine rage that might save the planet. And that includes men, like the divine feminine in
A
men
hundred
who
percent.
don't like the patriarchy of end stage capitalism where we are right now and where
But
we
you
are.
know what? I've been researching Mars, this who was Mars before he was Mars,
Mm.
because I've noticed for a long time. I mean, I've just kind of been going, huh, isn't that interesting? Jupiter, is like the king of the gods. Mars was his son. Jupiter hated Mars. He even said to Mars, of all my children, you are the most repulsive to me. And all the Olympians who, they had all these ideas about how things should be. They all looked at Mars and they were like, he's so uncouth.
It's
All but Venus.
oh, interesting.
She could not stay away from him.
Oh,
And they were all like,
I
what
can't
is
quit
up
you.
with that? Exactly.
She likes a bad
So
boy, I guess.
so then yes, I think definitely. Then I started just kind of nosing around and I discovered that part of Mars mythology is that in Thebes, like region of Greece,
Uh-huh.
there was a dragon who was the son of Mars. Mars had a dragon son.
No Game of
And to
Thrones.
the Greeks, the dragons and the snakes were they were sacred to the goddess, to the pre-patriarchal mythology.
Mm.
So I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? And so this dragon guarded a sacred spring, also associated with the goddess, the waters, the springs and rivers especially. So I'm like, that is very interesting. Then I found out that part of Greece before it was settled was said to be like sacred to the goddess Artemis. She was a wilderness goddess. She wanted to hang out with her nymphs and the wild animals. And if a man looked at her, he was gone. She'd take him out, like, So I'm thinking, and then I read that Mars has connections with the island of Crete,
Interesting.
which is the where the oldest continuous goddess-centered culture in the world was. And actually, all the Greek gods, one way or another, their story goes to Crete. So it's like this pre-patriarchal culture is really the homeland, even of the Olympians. They're kind of like my parents and grandparents, but especially my parents. They grew up in a completely different world than I did through the Great Depression, and so they brought something. I always knew they came from a different world, and that's kind of the way it is with the Olympian gods. So Mars, this settler, came to Thebes. He was going to build the city, and somehow he got tangled up. He got in a fight with the dragon, and he killed the dragon.
Hmm.
And the goddess Athena, who was kind of a new kind of goddess born out of her father's head,
Mhm.
she was,
Jeez.
anyway, she's the one who told Cadmus, take the teeth of that dragon, plant them. So he did, because Athena told him to. And out of the ground grew the first warriors. So it's like they took the teeth out of this ancient, sacred, pre-patriarchal, the dragon, associated with the feminine. I mean, way, way back.
Mhm.
The teeth of the dragon they planted. And I guess they said, okay, Mars, you can be the head warrior for all these warriors we have now.
Mhm.
They violated something even to. So I think there's a deeper, that Mars maybe has been kind of he's been forced. He was forced to serve a role, that he has another side. I just have been getting these intuitive hints that Mars, the force that he is, really he wants to change. He's tired of being the lackey for.
Well, that's good because we are in a very Martian time right now with
Yeah, we
the
are.
Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And, if people listen to this years from now, maybe Saturn will be out of Aries, but Neptune will be in it for a while. And all
Yeah.
the planets moving into fire and air. And it's such a Martian time. And yet, the time of our recording, May of 2026, Venus is going to be going retrograde at the end of this year. And I think she has some reckoning that's going to help balance all this Martian energy. But it's good to know that the Mars energy, the side of it that can really help us now.
Yes. And look at what's happening. Yes, we've got this horrible war that could explode into a world war at any minute.
Mhm.
But the people are not behind it.
On any
Like
in
it's
anywhere.
is it really Martian energy that's behind this, or is it Plutonian energy? Is it all about power and
The
money?
shadow, the mob, the like under the dealings, all the
Yeah.
it's all
And
of it.
once again, Mars is being forced into this role to serve, these interests that are not about, Mars is very physical and instinctual.
It's
These wars are not about instinct, they're about greed
they're
and
about
power.
greed. And so we have to there's a balancing energy that happens in the universe, right? Isn't that part of the order of things? And when we're in these darkest times, that's the myth. That's what I mean, if you look at mythology, the gods and goddesses did not escape hard times.
Oh, in fact, they kind of show us that there's nothing we can experience that they haven't experienced it too, that they understand,
Well,
which I find
in all
comforting.
the religions, I mean, there's no one that doesn't have like the Son of God, Jesus in certain religions, right? In Christianity, um, uh, did not have an easy time on the planet. Like Buddha had like kind of like Venus, like came into privilege
Yeah,
and yet
right. Left the
denounced.
palace.
Mhm. There's
Yeah.
no and when I was a little girl, I wanted to be Moses because I wanted to
I
talk to
love
God.
that. And parting the
Yeah,
waters.
I wanted to talk to God and create miracles. So like, I mean, they didn't have an easy time. Like nobody had an easy time. Nobody had an easy time. So the mythology, I think it's a myth of like maybe new age spirituality that like you can escape it somehow, like by, going into 5D reality or whatever. But like the gods don't escape it, the goddesses don't escape it. So we're in that dark time when, like you're saying, like things look dark. And yet Mars brings forth new life, right?
Yes. Yes, he does.
Yeah. All this new, like pioneering, courage, young energy,
He brings spring in the
spring.
northern hemisphere.
Yeah. And I feel like we need to embody the positive traits of Mars and Venus. Like Venus is not all good. Like she went in there too thinking that
Yes,
everything was going to be
right.
rosy too. Oh my gosh. But Venus is not all like there's no one and we have to balance our energies.
And we're not just Venus,
Yeah.
and we're not just Mars. We're this whole cast
Universe.
of
Mhm.
characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at a chart, are you looking at the myth, like all the characters, or how do you look at a chart when you look at a
Well,
chart?
I'd look at it, I like to look at it several
Mhm,
times.
mhm,
So, like, one of the looks will be kind of an analytical,
mhm.
where are the elements placed, who's the ruler, which is another. I mean, you know, astrology as it's been passed down, it came out of the rising patriarchy. So there are a lot of like rulers. That word is not accurate actually, because the zodiac signs are fields of stars, and a planet is a less not as evolved as a star. A planet can't rule a sign, but so
And
I'm always
so
searching
you
for.
don't have a like Mercury rules Virgo or
I think of it more as like Mercury is the guide,
Mhm,
the Virgo
mhm.
guide,
Yeah,
but
that
he's
makes
not.
sense.
I mean, so he's obviously
You don't own
very
me.
important. Rough.
Which is so Virgo. Virgo is like the woman
Yes,
unto herself, right? She's like,
exactly.
no, you don't own me.
Exactly.
So
So I'll look at the
you're
chart and
gonna
I'm
be
looking at
guided.
where are the planets, what are the elements, are there a lot of squares or not many? Are there a lot, just kind of, and then I'm looking at, I come back and I kind of look, like I'll always notice, is Venus on her way out of the underworld or is she on the way into the
Yeah, you mentioned
underworld?
that a
It's
couple of
always
times. I
one.
want to know like what is that about and how do
So
we know in our chart and what is it?
if Venus is ahead of the sun,
Mhm.
she's coming out of the underworld. But if she's behind the sun,
Okay.
she's on her way to the underworld.
Mhm.
And, she decides after she is rebirthed into the morning sky when she's retrograde, she just shoots right up. She's so ecstatic. And then there's this moment where you can almost feel her thinking, she's like a young child, while she's shooting up. Look at me, watch me. Can you see this? Are you looking? You know.
After her
And then
underworld journey, though, right?
yes, and she's just so ecstatic to be out and so dazzling to behold. And so she really goes very fast, shoots up, and then you can almost feel she's lingering there, like she's thinking, this is so fantastic. But I think I'm here for a bigger purpose, and I don't know what it is. And I think that's something too. It's universal. We know what that feels like. This is fine, but it's not it. There's something else. And so it's a great act, I think, of evolutionary daring when she does it, but also when we do it. She starts going down. She's like, I'm going to have to go back to the heart, find out what
And
it
that's the
is. And of course,
retrograde.
yeah. Well, no, that is after the retrograde. It's
Okay.
the morning descent. Then it, and she did this last, she got down, when she gets down behind the sun, we can't see her. We don't see her for 3 months, from November until the end of February or early March. She's depending on where we are, we can see her at different times. So for 3 months, she was behind the sun. She was
Every
just
year.
burning off every 18 months.
Yeah, every
Because
18
she
months
goes,
we have the retrograde, right? Can you
yes,
tell us about what a Venus retrograde is, what it is,
yes.
physical
So
thing and
so
mythology
we're
and why it
going
happens?
there. We're going there. So she rises up,
Mhm.
and then she realizes she's here for a bigger purpose and she doesn't know it. So she voluntarily, that's so daring, goes down.
Mm.
She's going back to the heart. And then she disappears and we don't see her. And when we do, she's not in the morning sky anymore. We see her after the sun sets. She's an evening star. And we've seen her like that since early March and all the way until the middle of August. And it's a wonderful, really empowering thing to do, to go out and see her, connect with her with our eyes, because we're taking in information at a different level, and it's going straight into our nervous system. It goes right through that nerve into the brain and throughout the whole nervous system. And it really deepens that sense of intimacy and of knowingness, and that she's there for us. So on August 15th, she'll be as high as she can
Of
get
2026.
this
But people will
August.
be listening in the future
Yes. Oh, right. Yes. August. But this is the journey
for
that
every
she
18 months.
takes. Yes. She's back every 18 months. And so when she is at that highest point, that's when the ancients would say, and they would say when she's a morning star, she's the queen of heaven.
Mm.
But when she's the evening star, she's the queen of heaven and earth.
Wow.
Venus as a morning star was a goddess of war. I mean, when Anana walked out of the underworld, she was like, some things are going to change.
Mm.
And if we've got to call out the armies, that's what we're going to do. But things are going to be different.
Wow.
So, and Astarte, after Inanna in what is now Lebanon, she was a goddess of war. Aphrodite was the first form of Venus. She was all about love, beauty, and sex. Totally sovereign, like even when she was briefly and notoriously unhappily married, she did not like to be chained down. She was still seeing Mars. I'm going to stay away from him.
Couldn't quit him. She just couldn't quit him. Something about that guy.
So, so then when she's up there on her throne, she is thinking, what an amazing universe this is. Look at this planet, this earth. I love it so much. And then she thinks, but I'm feeling there's another way that I can embody my power. I'm going to do this all over again. I'm starting all over. Then she starts going down, and we will see her. She's only going to stay on that throne about 6.5 weeks. In early October, we're going to see her every night. She'll be a little lower in the sky. And then in that last week in October, she's gone down. She's dissolving her form back into the universe. And she's saying to the sun, do me, son. Make me new.
Yeah.
And there's something else about this Venus cycle that is really momentous. You've probably heard about the Venus star, the
Yes.
star of Venus, sometimes called the Rose of Venus. So always Venus comes back to the same 5 parts of your birth chart, the same 5 signs of the zodiac. They move really slowly, and each one of those, that's where she's making her star points, where she conjoins the sun, either when she's retrograde. And when she's retrograde, she's actually only invisible for about 8 days. Whereas when in the middle, when she transforms from the morning to the evening star, she's gone for 3 months. So our entire lives, she's been and every 8 years, she comes back to the same sign, the retrograde. So this retrograde that starts in October and goes into November in Scorpio, we can think back the last time she was doing it there in the Scorpio part of our birth chart was in 2018. And before that, in 2010. That's right before I decided I'm all in. I'm going to just do astrology. The time before that, 2002. You can go back 8 years for your whole life. But this retrograde is the last time for 100 years that Venus will make a star point in Scorpio. This is the last one. So in a way, it's like she's been practicing for this one.
Oh my gosh.
100 years. And Scorpio is the sign of, she's going deep.
Deep. Yeah, that is the underworld. It's the sign of the underworld.
What do we need to let go of so we can be empowered fully by what we love, why we love, who we love, what we value? So yeah, I think it's going to be intense, super intense.
What can we let go of, but also what power can we collect that we've left in the
but
underworld?
That is how we collect it. We let go of what's taking
all
up
the
the
fears
room.
and all the things,
resentments and victimization feelings and all of that, whatever it is,
Anyways,
like we're not enough.
Power. So Venus is going retrograde in the sign of underworld transformation.
She starts in Scorpio, and then she makes her star point in 0 degrees of Scorpio. And then she retrogrades back into Libra. That's where she's going to change direction and start moving forward again. And then she's beginning 100 years star points in Libra.
That's amazing.
Her side. And this is wild. In 1773, Venus was making this same retrograde
Wow.
in October of 1773, made the star point in zero Scorpio, the last Scorpio star point. And so for 100 years, from 1781 until 1880 or 82, I think, there was a Libra star point. And we can see that that century, I mean, think about it. Think about, you've probably heard about Abigail Adams, who wrote to her husband, John Adams, when they were drafting the Constitution. Remember the ladies when you're up there writing that thing, because if you don't, we're going to foment a revolution. And then think about Sojourner Truth, Susan B. Anthony, Harriet Tubman, all the women who stood up for a better world, for abolishing slavery, all the women who started painting women's lives, all the writers, all the women who started writing, Louisa May Alcott and um, the Bronte sisters. I mean, there was a revolution of the feminine energy that came in under that Libra star point. All the new thought
I'm looking
thinkers,
forward to that.
Emerson, Thoreau,
Wow.
they all came in that Libra star point.
And we're wrapping up the Scorpio lessons now. So it's so interesting because like so much of like what was going on in 1776, like there's like the Uranus return of the United States that we just
I know,
return,
right?
then the Chiron return. It's like a lot of and Lord knows we need to like have a new something happen here.
And the
Goddess
great
knows.
thing
Goddess
is,
knows, right?
I think more people realize it than ever before.
Yeah. So Goddess knows.
I mean, this is what it's taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is part of like our underworld journey. That's why I think it's important to study like mythology, because it's like there's always this time where you're like, will they make it? Like, will like it looks like it's gonna be the end, but then there's this like power and like coming up from the underworld. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, because we are in that time when we're in the journey of the hero as a collective. And a lot of times it feels like, what? Like, but in the mythology of humans, we always come through with a new vision.
Yes. And we can see, just like you were just laying out, it's always associated with planetary cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So the planets themselves are telling us this, you're going through this.
We've all been through this, and we're going through it again. And this is the what happens before birth. There's this contraction and the pain. And why is my camera doing that? Hang on. My camera just moved. But there's probably because I move my hand so much as the New Yorker that I am. But
I love that.
There's a pain in the control. So what does it mean for us personally, the Venus retrograde?
Oh, that's such a great question. And really, I think what Venus is showing us is the personal. I mean, in the 70s, the saying the personal is political was kind of in the zeitgeist.
I love that bumper.
But now I feel like it's kind of the political is personal.
Mm-hmm.
It feels different now, it feels more. So, I mean, I think that, what I think is the universe is not just out there. I mean, definitely it's out there, but it's also in here. I read somewhere, I wish I could find this again, that in the atoms, every atom in our body the ratio like of the empty space, and then the subatomic particles, it's almost identical to the ratio of like planets and stars and empty space in the universe in every atom. And of course, we know all the atoms we're made of, they came out of stars that exploded at the end of our lives. I mean, we have this illusion. We can feel like we're separate, but we're really not separate. So, and that's that thing about bringing our medicine. I think it changes the universe when we live what is really true for us. And maybe that leads us to, go to a protest or, whatever. And maybe it doesn't. But our medicine somehow goes into the mix. We're all here. The fact that we're here to me says we're all part of this. We're going through a great change. Another thing my astrology teacher from the 80s used to say to me is he'd say, it's not just a saying that it takes all kinds. To make a world, it takes all kinds. So maybe we need some people not to be, activists. Maybe they're somehow holding something for the others. I mean, I do feel like when we're following our own truth, that's not just for us. The whole world benefits.
So what is the personal medicine of the Venus retrograde?
Well, it being willing to trust what we love and what we don't. And it's trusting that we can be shattered and we have the power to put ourselves back together in a more empowering way than we were before. But also just getting more in touch with that. I mean, the power of attraction keeps the whole universe together. It brings all the good things into our lives. And I think if we can be consciously aware and kind of participating in the retrograde, like pulling back. I have really noticed when Venus is retrograde, I can often think, this friendship is so empty. It's over. But actually, I mean, there is a dear friend I've had for a long time, and I thought this is just dying on the vine. That last time when she was not even retrograde, but that 3 month, behind the sun. And now she's an evening star rising, and I'm seeing this friendship is rekindling.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
You just needed to redefine your relationship with the relationship.
Yeah. And she probably needed to do the same thing. And it's, like not a good time to make any big expenditure or buy new clothes or get a new haircut because Venus is retrograde and she's a good chance she won't be liking the same things when she's done.
Now, mind you, in 2026, it's October and November. It's like
it's 42 days starting on October 3rd and going to I think maybe sometime in the first part of November.
Yeah, I know it's after the election. And it's every 18 months. So we're talking about Venus retrograde. That's every 18 months, depending on when you're listening to this. Go look.
Yes. And she moves around from the 5, so she's coming back to the same. We can think of those parts of our birth chart. They're like her temples of regeneration.
Wow.
And resurrection. I mean, she literally rises up from the underworld. So in us.
Yeah, I love that. And then we come back from these dark or periods where we need a break or we don't feel like doing things and we just want to like be in our own little worlds. And then we have to trust those times.
We do. We really do.
Yeah.
Because when we don't, we start to get disconnected from
Then you're just
ourselves.
on autopilot.
Yeah,
And the last thing
exactly.
Venus wants is autopilot.
Totally. She is not about
All
that.
about what you love. So I know people listening understand why I can listen to Marcia all day. So Marcia's actually going to be coming on as one of our resident astrologers. I'm so excited. Marcia, you're such a gift to the world and the universe. Such a star
Well, I'm
yourself.
excited because I know if people are resonating with you, I'm
Yeah.
going to resonate with them.
And with my 5 planets in Virgo, I am very discerning about who I bring on. Um, so I am so excited. Marcia's going to be doing, and you do a variety of readings, right? Like all the things.
Yes, all the things, the natal reading, the reading about issues, vocation, relationship. I do relationship readings, looking at the two charts and the third chart they
Ministry.
make together. Um, and also, looking at relationships in families,
Mhm.
and patterns in families. Astrocartography also I do and love to do. I'm just thinking of charts readings I've done recently. I've done a number like of charts kind of envisioning businesses.
Wow.
Maybe if you're starting a new business or wanting to, and this is a good time. The other thing that's so great about astrology is it gives us some objective information, like that so we can prepare. I think we always have choice
Mhm.
in how we respond, but it helps us to know, okay, you're going to really have to be held accountable, at this time,
Mhm.
or this time you may end up rethinking, it's that helps us. I don't think the planets are ever telling us what to do
Well,
or what not to
you
do.
told me before about these two words, etymology, consider and disaster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you share that?
Yes. And that's really, I think, what they're telling us why we should, you know what's happening in our church. The word consider comes the two root words. On means with, and sidereal, which is like sidereal time is star time. It literally means with the stars. So really in a reading, I think what I'm always trying to hold space for people to do is to come to have a feel for how we can all act and live with the stars guidance, not against the stars,
Yeah.
because when we do that, that's what the word disaster means. Against, aster is another word for star. It's the same root astro comes
Ah,
from.
that's mind blowing.
So, yeah. Do we want to consider the stars input, or do we want to head for a disaster? Don't we have enough of that in our world?
Yeah, we have a
And
choice though. We have a
we
choice.
do, and we always have a choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing, Venus, and so it's really important to remember she's going down as much as she is going up.
Yeah. The
Like
cycles,
going
everything
down
cycle.
is part of how she rolls. So even when you're in the underworld and your head is smashed,
Yeah.
and like all the ideas, and that usually does feel like disaster,
Mhm.
but
In the
it's
moment,
meant
you're like, I can't
the
get out
end.
of this, but you will get out of it. We will all get out
Yes. And we will be better.
better.
We're
That's the
not
whole
just
point.
getting out of it.
That's the
We
whole
are
point.
we're going to build a better world.
It's a thriving energy. And
And Venus
personally,
is going to be a huge part of it.
and personally, for the people in the midst of what may feel like a disaster or like a distressing
100%.
time, you will rise like Venus in the sky, the queen of the heavens, no matter what.
And that's her purpose, I feel, in being so close to the earth.
Mhm. Yeah,
She's right here with us
yeah.
every step.
I love it. I love you too. So,
I love you too,
so,
Kari.
so, for readings, I'll link a link down in the description for you to get in touch and book a reading with Marcia. I'm so excited. And at the end of every episode, I like to have our guest share a magic lesson, something that they can incorporate easily. The Virgos love things to be easily integrated, right? Easily integrated into their life that helps them connect with the magic of the universe. What magic lesson would you like to share?
Well, this is one I feel is really important for these times because I do feel like, that Saturn Neptune conjunction in zero Aries was the first one. I mean, they could join every 36 years, but this was the first one in zero Aries in almost 6,000 years.
Incredible.
That's before the wheel.
Mhm.
It's a new dream, a new reality dream, a new dream of a new beginning. So I think this is our opportunity to let go of all kinds of fatalistic, doom filled ideas that we're bombarded with all the time. I mean, it's just like a live stream. It's no wonder it's so easy to feel, oh, it's no use, it's hopeless, everything's going down. It's, because that's the information that's coming to us. But we live in a universe, and this is something the Greeks had no idea about, but we do. 97% of the universe is what they call the dark universe.
Mm.
That doesn't mean bad. It means we can't see it.
Mhm.
We can't measure it, but we know it's there. And we know that everything comes out of it. Everything comes out of nothing. Now, this, culture of the West, it's very, this is bad, this is good, and everything is split apart. I think all those things are kind of coming back to bite us, now. All those pre-patriarchal gods and goddesses who were banished and labeled as terrible. So I think, and this I often say, everything I really have figured out about life is something that I learned because, staring at the planets and stars and the ephemerides. So I think when we are feeling problem, even an irritation, anything that we would kind of want to say, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that way. Instead of saying that, that's kind of like sending that energy. I'm putting you in the closet and I'm going to gag you and you're not getting anything to eat. We're abusing
Yeah.
this part of us. I mean, that's doing the best it can. And we know we can't really, nothing leaves the universe. It stays in the universe. So if we remember the dark universe, that 97% of every conversation, situation, problem, we can't see what's really going on. There's always possibility. So if we just let the problem just kind of like say, I see you.
Mm.
Would you like a cup of tea? It's not like saying, I'm going to let you run the show. We're just acknowledging, like you've been doing throughout this call, acknowledging these are hard times.
Mhm.
These are
Yeah.
not peaceful, easy times. But when we do that, we're trusting that in making room for something that challenges us just to exist, we're trusting that it's going to lead us to something we aren't aware of right now, that we need to see or know, that there's a creative element inside of every dilemma. Even this horrible presidency that we are suffering under is waking us up
Mhm.
to some things that maybe we had taken for granted. So it's not about saying everything is good. It's just being willing to say, I see you. And that I find it has the reverse. It's not, it creates a space where things can solve themselves more easily.
So, in those times when we're feeling like Venus with her head bashed in, to say, okay, this is where I am. I'm not going to,
Yes.
I'm not going to
Yes.
pretend it's not there. I'm not going to push it away and trying to just push my way through it. I'm going to say, okay, this is where I am. And there's all this dark
And
matter that
know,
creates something new.
yes. Yes. It's like, this is where I am. And this is one moment, one spot in the circle of life.
Mm.
And just giving that place lets the whole circle know it's welcome. Anything,
Anything else?
any new creative idea.
Mhm. It's so
It
much
is a
more
weird thing I
accepting.
have discovered, that it seems to be call in the magic without, sometimes it can feel like we're calling the cosmic ATM. And this is really just saying, I see you,
Mhm.
and I see that you're here in this great circle of life.
Of infinite potential.
Yes.
I appreciate you so much. That's beautiful. I'm so excited to share your
I
wisdom,
am
your
too,
infinite
Karen.
wisdom with anyone who feels drawn to this special magic that you have. And I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with me and with us today. I'm very grateful for you. And everybody listening, Marcia, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just, I don't know. I feel like I've said this to you before. I feel like we came from the same part of the sky,
True.
maybe the same constellation or something. And so I know there must be other
Other people like us.
people in our
Our
constellation that are,
constellation.
yeah,
That's another
yeah,
beautiful way of saying soul family, right? So
yes,
thank you,
yes.
Marcia, for being in my constellation. Thank you all listening for being in our constellation and for being the star in the sky that we're all helped to illuminate this universe. Thank you all. And I wish you all so much love. Lots of love. Bye for now.